A quiet cafe becomes the scene of an unexpected act of courage when a rude man begins harassing an elderly veteran, mocking his service and dignity. As patrons look on in silence, LeBron James, seated nearby, decides he can't stay idle. Rising to his feet, LeBron steps in with calm authority, confronting the man and standing up for the veteran in a moment that leaves everyone speechless. What happens next is a ripple of kindness and respect that restores faith in humanity. The hum of quiet chatter filled the small cafe, where the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the warmth of freshly baked pastries. Patrons sat at their tables, enjoying a peaceful afternoon. Among them, at a small table near the window, sat an elderly man, his shoulders slightly hunched, a quiet reflection of years gone by. He wore a faded military hat, its edges frayed from decades of use, and a small, tarnished medal pinned proudly to the front. His clothes were simple and neatly pressed, though they bore the signs of a modest life. With care, he lifted a steaming cup of coffee to his lips, savoring the moment. A small plate with a half-eaten sandwich sat in front of him, untouched for some time, as if his thoughts had taken him elsewhere. Despite his reserved demeanor, there was an air of dignity about him, a man who had likely endured much but asked for little in return. Occasionally, he glanced out the window, watching the world go by, his face etched with the kind of wisdom that only time and experience could bring. Seated a few tables away was LeBron James, casually dressed in a plain white t-shirt and jeans. His large frame blended surprisingly well into the relaxed atmosphere, his demeanor calm and unassuming. He had come in for a quiet break, his phone placed face down on the table as he sipped his drink. LeBron's sharp eyes caught sight of the veteran, his attention drawn to the man's weathered hat and the metal gleaming softly in the light. It wasn't the first time LeBron had seen someone like him, someone with a story written in their quiet strength. Unbeknownst to the veteran, LeBron's silent observation was about to become something much more. The cafe's peaceful atmosphere was shattered and a loud voice pierced the air. "Hey, old man. What's with the hat? You think anyone cares about your service anymore?" A man sitting a few tables away from the elderly veteran leaned forward, his mocking tone dripping with disrespect. The veteran glanced up briefly, his expression calm but weary. He chose not to respond, instead focusing on his coffee. However, the man wasn't done. "Seriously, what are you trying to prove? Bet you just wear that thing to get free stuff or sympathy," he sneered, laughing loudly as if expecting others to join in. The cafe grew uncomfortably silent. Patrons looked up from their conversations and phones, their eyes darting between the rude man and the veteran. Whispers filled the room, but no one spoke up. Most people averted their gazes, pretending not to notice, while others exchanged uneasy glances. The veteran remained composed, his hands gripping his coffee cup a little tighter. His face betrayed no anger, only a quiet sadness that deepened with every cruel word. "Nothing to say, huh? Figures. Bet you just sit here all day telling people war stories no one wants to hear," the man continued, his voice growing louder and more aggressive. LeBron James, seated a few tables away, lowered his drink and turned his full attention to the scene unfolding in front of him. His brow furrowed, and his calm demeanor shifted slightly. He watched as the veteran tried to tune out the insults, his silence only fueling the rude man's taunts. "Look at him," the man said to no one in particular, gesturing toward the veteran. "Acting like some kind of hero. Pathetic." The veteran took a deep breath, still refusing to engage. He adjusted his hat slightly, as if to reclaim some sense of dignity, but the man's words were clearly taking a toll. His shoulders slumped further, and his gaze fell to the table. The tension in the room was palpable. Some patrons looked like they wanted to speak up, but none did. A few glanced toward LeBron, recognizing him but unsure if he would step in. LeBron leaned back slightly in his chair, his jaw tightening as he assessed the situation. He wasn't one to seek confrontation, but he also wasn't someone who could stand by and let injustice go unanswered. As the rude man let out another burst of laughter, LeBron stood up. His imposing frame and steady presence immediately drew everyone's attention. The cafe grew even quieter as LeBron calmly pushed his chair back and began walking toward the veteran's table. The rude man noticed him approaching and smirked, seemingly unfazed. "What's this? You here to back him up?" he asked, a mocking edge in his voice. LeBron's expression remained calm, but his eyes carried a weight of authority that silenced even the murmurs in the cafe. He stopped next to the veteran's table, placing a protective hand on the back of the man's chair. "You've said enough," LeBron said, his voice low but firm. The room held its breath, the conflict about to reach a turning point. LeBron James sat quietly in his seat, his drink untouched as he watched the scene unfold. The rude man's voice rang out again, a mixture of mockery and hostility. "What's the matter, old man? You can't handle the truth? People like you are just relics, clinging to your past glory." LeBron's calm demeanor began to shift. His brow furrowed, and his jaw tightened. It wasn't just the man's words, it was the way the veteran's shoulders slumped further with each insult, his quiet dignity being worn down by cruelty. LeBron could feel the tension in the room. The other patrons were visibly uncomfortable, their silence almost as loud as the man's taunts. After a moment of stillness, LeBron decided enough was enough. Slowly, he rose from his chair, his towering frame immediately drawing the attention of everyone in the cafe. The air seemed to change as he pushed his chair back and began walking toward the veteran's table. The rude man noticed LeBron's approach, but instead of backing down, he smirked, attempting to maintain his dominance. "Oh, look who decided to join us," he said sarcastically, leaning back in his chair. "What, are you here to be his bodyguard or something?" LeBron didn't respond right away. Instead, he stopped next to the veteran's table, his expression calm but filled with quiet authority. He placed a reassuring hand on the back of the veteran's chair, a silent gesture of support. "You've said enough," LeBron said firmly, his voice low but powerful. The man's smirk faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "It's just a joke," he said defensively, though his tone lacked the confidence it had before. "The guys probably heard worse. Why do you care?" LeBron's gaze didn't waver. "I care because he deserves respect," he replied. His voice was steady, but there was an unmistakable edge of intensity that made the room fall completely silent. "This man has given more to this country than most of us ever will. And you're sitting here trying to tear him down?" The man shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his bravado slipping away. "I wasn't trying to tear him down. You just what?" LeBron interrupted, his tone still calm but now sharper. "You think it's okay to disrespect someone like him because it makes you feel bigger? Does it make you proud to mock someone who's done more in his life than you could imagine?" The man had no response. He opened his mouth as if to speak but quickly closed it, his confidence entirely gone under LeBron's commanding presence. The veteran, who had remained silent throughout the exchange, looked up at LeBron with a mixture of gratitude and surprise. LeBron gave him a small, reassuring nod before turning back to the man. "If you don't have anything kind to say," LeBron said, his voice softening slightly, "it's better to say nothing at all." The man, now visibly flustered, mumbled something under his breath and quickly gathered his belongings. He stood up, avoiding eye contact with LeBron, and left the cafe in silence. As the door closed behind him, a wave of relief swept through the room. The patrons, who had been holding their breaths, began murmuring quietly. LeBron pulled out a chair and sat down next to the veteran, the confrontation over but the lesson left lingering in the air. As the cafe door closed behind the rude man, the air seemed to lighten. The tension that had gripped the room melted away, replaced by a quiet sense of relief and admiration. A few patrons began to clap softly, their applause growing louder as others joined in, expressing their appreciation for what LeBron James had done. LeBron, however, simply nodded at the applause and shifted his attention to the elderly veteran sitting in front of him. Pulling out the chair opposite the veteran, LeBron sat down, his towering presence now calm and inviting. The veteran, visibly touched by LeBron's actions, looked up at him with a mix of gratitude and humility. "Thank you," the veteran said softly, his voice trembling. "You didn't have to do that." LeBron gave him a reassuring smile. "I couldn't just sit there and let that happen," he replied. "You've earned respect, and I wasn't about to let someone take that away from you." The two men sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the cafe bustling around them. Then, LeBron leaned forward slightly. "If you don't mind me asking, what's your story?" he said gently. "That medal on your hat. I'd love to hear about it." The veteran hesitated at first, but LeBron's genuine interest and kind tone encouraged him to open up. He began to share pieces of his life, his time serving in the military, the friends he'd lost, and the sacrifices he'd made. As he spoke, LeBron listened intently, nodding occasionally and asking thoughtful questions. The veteran also shared the struggles he faced now as an aging war hero. He spoke of a fixed income that barely covered his expenses, health issues that came with age, and the loneliness that often crept in. His words painted a picture of resilience and quiet strength, but also the challenges that many veterans like him faced every day. Moved by the veteran's story, LeBron decided to take action. He waved over the waitress, quietly asking to pay for the veteran's meal. But he didn't stop there. Pulling out his phone, LeBron made a few calls. Before long, he had arranged for the veteran to receive additional support through a local organization dedicated to helping veterans. "I've got some people who can help," LeBron said, his voice full of encouragement. "They'll make sure you're taken care of." The veteran's eyes welled up with tears. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, his voice thick with emotion. LeBron smiled warmly. "It's the least I can do," he said. "You've already done so much for all of us." As LeBron stood to leave, he placed a hand on the veteran's shoulder. "Take care of yourself, and if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask," he said sincerely. The veteran nodded, his gratitude evident in his expression. As LeBron walked out of the cafe, the patrons who had witnessed the entire event were left inspired. It wasn't just about standing up to injustice, it was about compassion, respect, and taking action to make someone's life better. LeBron's act of kindness didn't end there. The story spread throughout the community, reminding everyone of the power of small gestures to create meaningful change. For the veteran, it was a moment he would never forget, a moment of justice, kindness, and the respect he truly deserved. As LeBron James walked out of the cafe, the room seemed to hum with a newfound energy. The patrons, who had moments earlier remained silent during the confrontation, now found their voices. A young woman approached the veteran, her expression warm and sincere. "Thank you for your service," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. The veteran smiled, nodding in quiet appreciation, his once dimmed eyes now shining with emotion. One by one, others came forward to offer their own words of gratitude. A man in a business suit shook the veteran's hand firmly, while a mother with her young child encouraged her daughter to say, "Thank you." The veteran, who had grown used to fading into the background, was suddenly the center of a wave of respect and kindness. Among the patrons, someone had discreetly recorded parts of the incident. The video captured LeBron's calm yet commanding confrontation with the rude man, his genuine conversation with the veteran, and the ripple of admiration that followed. By the time LeBron's car pulled away from the cafe, the video had already begun circulating on social media, accompanied by captions like, "LeBron James proves again why he's more than a basketball legend," and, "Standing up for what's right, this is what respect looks like." The story spread quickly, gaining traction as people across the country watched the video. Veterans organizations shared it, praising LeBron for his respect and kindness. Social media users applauded not just his actions but the lesson it taught about standing up for those who deserve recognition and respect. LeBron's response was simple. In a brief comment on the viral post, he wrote, "We all owe so much to our veterans. Just doing my part to show a little gratitude. Let's take care of our heroes." For the veteran, the day became a moment he would never forget. What began as an ordinary coffee break had turned into an extraordinary reminder of his worth. The outpouring of kindness from the community, sparked by LeBron's actions, restored his faith in the world around him. The video became more than just a viral moment, it became a call to action, encouraging others to show appreciation for the veterans in their lives. LeBron's quiet but powerful gesture reminded everyone that standing up for what's right can create ripples of kindness that reach far beyond what we can see. This heartwarming story shows us the power of standing up for what's right. LeBron James didn't just defend an elderly veteran from cruel harassment, he inspired an entire cafe and countless others to show kindness and respect to those who've given so much. His quiet act of courage and compassion became a beacon of hope, proving that even small gestures can create ripples that change lives. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this. Let's spread kindness and positivity, one story at a time. Glowing star.